All right.
I don't even like the chess app it has on there.
It's
140 $100 chess app. It came with the computer.
All right. All right. Welcome back, everyone. We're gonna take the last two problems that the last problem one that I want to make sure that we didn't cover on the Wednesday when we got early out. So we're gonna do that today. I'm gonna post another video where I did it over break. I'm gonna post it tonight so you can watch that one, or today's video. They'll have kind of the same material. So in case you didn't like the way I described today, maybe you can go back and watch me do it a different way that I did it over break. I just didn't post it because I didn't feel like I was going to watch it anyway. So, honestly. So, I'll post tonight if you guys want to see it. So, all right. But anyway, semester test tomorrow. Make sure that book check is on Wednesday. So, book check is Wednesday. So, you need to find your physical copy. It's got to have a book cover on it. I'll kind of remind you of that tomorrow. I'm here for a little bit tomorrow during class. Now, semester testing is tomorrow. If you haven't noticed, I left the Google Classroom live. I was going to delete everything out of there. I'm still going through there. It takes a little while.
Ooh, is that new speaker?
So, yeah. So, my sister gave me that. So,
I feel like everyone's flexing with the guy.
so,
I got these shoes.
I'm flexing my socks.
So,
Am I wrong?
this is one of the cool gifts I wasn't expecting. So, I like it. I brought it here so I can use it here. So, all right. So I did. I tested it earlier. The first time I ever used that, I had to charge it here and use it. So I'll use it. I like
See if
it.
it plays
So
Love
it's not
Sosa.
loud. So what?
See if it plays Love Sosa.
No. All right. So let's go through a couple notes here. No. So let's see. I think we got everyone here. All right.
Wow, I had other items in there, but I ate them.
Okay. So first of all, here's what we're doing today. We're going to do the last question. I'm going to spend the most time on that one. Once we're done with that one question, I'll go back and kind of review little things you need to know. Tomorrow, I only have 7 calculators, so if you have one, bring it, know how to use it, all that good stuff. We'll talk about it when we're done here. Practice guide. What?
It says race format, so I just wrote what you have to do. I don't actually have to do the problem, do I?
Well, you have to answer what the second derivative is.
So I do have to.
Yeah. So I'm going to show you a shortcut here today. So that's something that so that you're going to want to know how to do it for the test. It's basically testing your ability if you can long divide or synthetic divide. So we'll do that today. And then the idea is that after we're done with this one question, I'll go back and I'll just kind of quickly review like little things you need to remember. If there's something in particular, like I need to see that one more time, we'll go through that problem or I'll make up a new one on the spot. But my goal today is do the one question that we were supposed to do that Wednesday when we're on the early out. So let's flip to that one real quick, and then we'll get going here. So this is the one question you guys had. It was said, answer the following question using proper race format. It says, what is the second derivative for the following function? So how you're supposed to answer race format, you're supposed to restate the question and answer it. So your first line on your question is, the second derivative for the following function is blank, and then you write down what the blank is, right? You write down what the answer is. Then what you do is you go back through and you explain in words like what you did, right? So like what Isaac was saying, he kind of lightly overviewed, I'm going to long divide, or I'm going to do this to find it, or maybe you're just going to go straight into that second derivative, which I would not do on this problem. So we're going to kind of lightly go through this. So what I'm going to do here first is show you my method for how I did it. I think this is probably the fastest way for you to do it. It's testing your ability if you know how to long divide. I'm going to go to my next slide to finish this problem out. So I'll leave it like I'm going to freeze it up here once I get to it. Then I'm going to write down the problem. Then we're going to go to it. Okay. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to FOIL. Whoa, didn't mean to do that.
This test is only worth 10%, right?
Yeah, only 10. So this problem, I'm going to show you a quick way to do this problem. Now this is the fastest way to do it. It is the most efficient way to do it. It is actually easier than it looks, because right now it looks terrible.
So wait, this is a shortcut we've never seen before.
No, you've seen it. You just probably don't remember me doing it in class.
That's a bomb.
We talked about long division in class, correct? This is the reason why I brought this problem up. So, all right, you multiply this together. So this is the bottom, right? I'm just rewriting the bottom out so I can figure out what the polynomial is. I want it as a polynomial. So foiling first, outer, and then inner and last. So I'm going to multiply this out. So this is what the denominator is on this problem. It's x to the 6th plus 2x to the 5th plus 2x to the 5th plus 4x to the 4th. right? Because and now I know these can combine. So the denominator on your problem is this thing written out. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
Now I'm going to freeze this on the marker board so you can see this. Now on my next slide, I'm going to be writing this problem all the way out. So you'll get to see this here in a second. All right, so the inside, what is it, x to the 12th, 8x to the 11th, 24x to the 10, 32x to the 9.
Where are you writing this now?
I'm writing out the problem one more time, just with the new bottom. 0x to the 7.
It's frozen.
Yeah, I froze it. 0x to the 6. I just 0x to, sorry, I'm freezing the screen so I can actually see what's there. Because if I just go to the next slide, I'll have to bounce back and forth, and it becomes super unnerving to see it. All right. X to the 6, 4x to the 5th, 4x to the 4th, 0x to the 3rd, all the way down to 0. Okay, unfreeze. Okay, what you're looking at here, I'm taking the numerator and dividing by the denominator long division style. Now, I have to fill in all the zeros when you do long division or you do synthetic. So I filled in 0x to the 7, 0x to the 6, 0x to the 5th, and on the item that was on the denominator that I'm dividing by, it was x to the 6, 4x to the 5th, 4x to the 4th, 0x to the 3rd, 0x to the 2nd, 0x, and a 0. So you can see all that stuff I wrote out there. Okay. We talked about long division in class. We did it. We did it for like 2 or 3 days just to talk about this is a shortcut of why we do it. Now, the reason why I'm doing this problem, I haven't actually started the second derivative yet. I am trying to simplify what the problem was before I start. This is something I would just, in the very informal form of writing my race format, I would say my first, the reason why the second derivative is this is because my first step was to long divide the following functions to get this answer, right? Then I would explain how I found the second derivative. So this is just simplifying what the original problem would look like because it is ugly. That first problem was super menacing looking. I just want to simplify this thing out so you can see what it's supposed to be.
This looks also menacing.
It looks menacing until you actually get into it and you're like, whoa, this actually isn't too bad. So it really isn't. Once you get about 2 or 3 steps in, you'll see that it just answers itself. Question?
So you don't have to put it all the way to 0?
I'm not, because I know there's going to be a shortcut because there's so many zeros that at some point it's just going to stop. It's going to stop after like 2 lines or so. Because all the rest of the things will just be zeros. So, question?
You won't get dock points if you don't.
No, because it's going to end. So, I'm probably not going to pick something this big. It'll be something significantly smaller because you have to do it in 1 class period. I just picked this thing so you can see the level of what we should be doing. So now, what do I have to multiply on an x to the 6th to make x to the 12th? 1x to the 6th, right? So if I multiply by 1x to the 6th, that'll make x to the 12th here. So I'm going to put that right down here. 1x to the 6th. Now, it should be right above where the x to the 6 is. It doesn't actually matter. In fact, I'm not going to actually write it over there. I'm just going to write it over here because I want you guys to see it. So I'm going to multiply by 1x to the 6th. But I'm supposed to write it above where the x to the 6 is. I just don't have enough space. All right, so now, when I multiply by 1x to the 6th, I get x to the 12th. 1x to the 6th times that is 4x to the 11th. A 1x to the 6th times this is a 4x to the 10th. And then multiply this on, that'll be 0x to the 9th, 0x to the 8th, 0x to the 7th. So that would be to the 3rd, 2nd, 1st, and then the 0 in the back. Okay, does that make sense what we just did there? Multiplying everything by the 1x to the 6th. That's on the outside. You can see all my little arrows. All right. We have to switch the signs on all these things, which the zeros don't really even matter. And then I go straight down. So if I went straight down, what am I going to get? What happens to the x to the 12ths?
Cancels.
Gone. That's what should happen. The first variable should go away. You should have done that right. What's 8 minus 4?
4.
4x to the 11th. 24 minus 4? 20x to the 10. 32 minus 0 is just 32, x to the 9. 16 minus 0 is 16, x to the 8th. And then we just have a bunch of zeros. And I'll drop down the next one. I only have to drop one down. Every time you move, you just drop down the next item. Okay, questions so far? Again, I'm not going to give you something this big and messing. The reason why, you have to finish it in one class. But I do want to see that you can long divide. So I'd pick something that's big enough that you can see all the steps of long division. And it's not, we're not going to go all the way down. This thing will stop after about 2 lines. So you'll see it'll just be a bunch of zeros after a while. Okay, questions so far? A lot of you are still writing, sorry. Okay, so we start all the way over now.
Wait, so you dropped the 0x5?
Yeah, I always drop down just the next one item.
Wouldn't that technically be the 0 then?
That'll be the back item, yeah. Eventually, yes, it will be. Because we have to go down x to the 5th, x to the 4th, x to the 3rd, so you have to fill in every number. Yeah. Alright, so now we start all the way over. Pick a new color here, pick blue. What do we have to multiply on x to the 6th to make a 4x to the 11th? 4x to the 5th. So I'm going to multiply by a 4x to the 5th to get it to look like that. So a positive 4x to the 5th. So if I multiply that, here's what I'm going to get. I'm going to get a 4x to the 11th. Multiply on the next term, I'm going to get a 16x to the 10. Multiply again, I'm going to get a 16x to the 9. If I can, there we go. And then a 0x to the 8th. 0x to the 7, 0x to the 6, 0x to the 5th. All right. If you notice, there's just more and more zeros. It will go away. What do we have to do next? Change the signs and go straight down. So change the sign, change the sign, change the sign, and you get the zeros, and you get the idea. The zeros don't really matter. So 4 minus 4, gone. 16 minus 6, or sorry, 20 minus 16. 4, x to the 10. Then I have 32 minus 16, which is 16, x to the 9. 16 minus 0 is 16, x to the 8th. And then you're just going to have a bunch of zeros. 0x to the 7, 0x to the 6, 0x to the 5th. And you just keep going. You drop down the next item. So far, do we understand this idea of long division? It's the next line's my last, and we'll be done. So, and this will get me to what my original problem should have been. So we start all the way over again. This will be my last line of work, promise. So what do we need to multiply on an x to the 6th to make 4x to the 10th? 4x to the 4th. So if I multiply by a 4x to the 4th, here's what I'm going to get. So if I multiply by a 4x to the 4th, I'll get 4x to the 10th. Oops, let me erase that. I'll get a 4x to the 10th. 4x to the 4th times this is 16x to the 9. 4x to the 4 times that is 16x to the 8th, and then just a bunch of zeros again. Alright, you get the idea. Okay, so now what I have to do now is subtract straight down. So if I subtract straight down, you get zeros on everything. I don't need to drop anything more. We're done. It ended. There's only zeros from the rest of it out. Right? Because it would just be zeros times everything. So when I long divided, and I found out that I got all zeros now.
That's the first derivative, though.
No, this is just, this part you're looking at right here is what the original problem should have been. Instead of me giving you that crazy looking thing on that last problem, it should have been just that thing that you're seeing in the box.
So we already started.
So I'm gonna freeze that just for a second.
And now to start the problem.
Yeah. So So what do I have? So my function that I gave you, instead of that crazy fraction, it should have been just this. And the race format question was, so let me unfreeze this. So does anyone still need that though?
No.
Or
Okay.
do you think you got a perfect score in the math section in ACT?
Probably. All right. Now,
What?
so I didn't care. I already got an Iowa State. So
That's ridiculous.
I got accepted before I even took it. So
What?
I got accepted before I took the ACT.
Well, me too.
So
But I still took it and I still wanted to see.
Technically, we didn't even.
So.
need to.
yeah. Now, okay. So this is what the original problem should have been. Your race format question said, what is the second derivative to this function? Well, if we take the second derivative, so the first derivative of this thing, first derivative is 6x to the 5th, 20x to the 4th, and 16x to the 3rd, right? Because you drop the power down, subtract 1. That's first derivative. Second derivative of this monster should have been 30x to the 4th, 80x to the 3rd, and 48x to the 2nd. That right there is what your race format question was asking. What is the second derivative? That's it. So when you go back and you start writing your little paragraph, and again, you would not be probably showing me any of this work on your paper. This would be like, I'd give you a piece of scratch paper. I wouldn't give you a problem that big and menacing. It'll be something smaller that you can do quickly. You'll figure out what your function is. You'll figure out first, second, whatever derivative I asked for. And then what you're going to do in your race format is you're going to go back to that original sentence, okay, and say the second derivative for the following function is 30x to the 4th, 80x to the 3rd, 48x to the 2nd, period. And then you explain what you did in words. First step, I simplified the function before I started finding the first derivatives by long dividing the two functions. The resulting answer from long dividing was that thing I have in black. Right there. To find the first and second derivative, I use the power rule.
So we're going to do long division.
Yes. You can do long division or you'll be able to do synthetic. If you can remember how to do that. I have not talked about that.
But we can do long division if you can't remember.
Yes. Because you're going to get to the point where it'll be something simple. You can long divide it. It'll be work out nice and clean like mine did. And then you'll have to take the first or second derivative of it. The reason why this covers like almost every polynomial thing that we talked about in the beginning of the year, plus some of the stuff that was in this unit about derivatives. We talked about this stuff. And that's what you have to do in your question. So you have to write your little race format, write your sentence form, write it all out. Okay, questions on what you're going to have to do. I know it seems like a lot. The math is what I'm really focused on. I want you to show the math, on a separate sheet of paper. You'll just staple that right to it. I'll give you plenty of room to work. This will probably take you the longest, obviously, so it's the last question, so I give you plenty of space. I'll give you a second sheet of paper if you need it. I don't know if you have the whole back side that you can use. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you should be fine in terms of paper space. So, all right, questions? All right, now if we go back and look at any of the other problems, we look at any of the other problems on this practice guide. Question 1, finding parallel and perpendicular, knowing how to write in slope-intercept or point-slope form. Remember, you have to know your formula. The formula for point-slope form is this. It's something you have to have memorized. Probably the only formulas you have to have memorized. So then I plug in my slope, plug in my point, good to go. If you have to use logarithms, know how to type it in your calculator. Know how to do the little...
Log 2 divided by log 17, right?
Yep.
So, if like this number 3,
Yeah.
so if there's something out in front of,
You have to divide that off first.
will it always be an E?
If there's something like that, yeah. I wouldn't do it on a normal number. It wouldn't
This
look right.
one, divide 7 by 5.
Get that number first, and then just do
Divided
the
by 7.
7 divided by
Or
5.
yeah, 7 divided by 5.
Then you just do natural log.
Then natural logs are going to cancel out for the E.
Yeah.
So that goes away. So then I have the 1.4, because 7 divided by 5.
Natural log of that 1.2, I think, or something like that.
I think it's 1.4.
Is it 1.4? I thought it was 1.2.
It's 1.4.
Is it? 1.4, and then, so natural log of that, and then divide by 0.2.
Divided by
0.2.
natural log.
No, just 0.2, because you've already canceled the natural log with the
Cancel that
e.
out. Divided by 0.2.
Yep.
That's nice.
Done.
No, it's
Okay.
Okay, this one, you'll have to graph. This one could take probably the longest on the first page. You have to graph the trig function, know how to shift it right and left, know how to shift it up and down. I do not need to see where zero's at. I just need to see your 4 hash marks after the first one, and then that you have your spacing, that you have, you know, the amplitude numbers, and you have all the numbers marked. You do not have to go specific to simplify what each hash mark is. You can just leave it very generic, like it's the first one plus the spacing again, plus the spacing again. You can do it that way.
You said that we're not gonna have tangent numbers.
No, it'll be a sine or cosine only.
Cosine makes a V, right?
It's a U shape, yeah. This one you'll have to do end behavior and symmetry. Just make sure you're listing off all the things up here, and then your graph over here should prove it. So just make sure of that.
There will be no horizontal or
No slant. It'll be only a horizontal, like you're seeing here. 6, you got to do the differential quotient. That formula you need to know. I actually might just print it in there. So that's the f of x plus h, that part. I might actually have that printed.
Nice care hair.
This is great.
I got one like that at home.
This is
I think my mom might be
They're very warm.
Yeah. And so I might actually have that printed, and where you have to actually plug it in and solve it out. 7, find the first derivative. It'll be a product quotient rule. So there you go. And you don't have to simplify those. 9 will be a chain rule. 10 will have something with arc or arc sine or cosine. Those again are the ones you need to have memorized. So go back and look at those in your textbook, which you should be finding anyway. And the last one will be something where you have to long divide and then just do power rule.
Arc sine, I forgot.
Which one?
the E part of race.
Expanding or explaining. So on the E part of the race format, that's the part where you'll have to, state what you're doing. So maybe be explicit. So you're going to be like, I'm using the power rule. You're trying to explain in as much detail what you're doing. Not every step, but the power rule requires that, I drop the power and multiply, or drop the power and subtract 1. Just be very vague, but you're stating what thing you're doing.
So I can put, then we use the power rule to multiply by the exponent in order to find the derivative.
Exactly. Like that's giving me enough detail that somebody that knows what you're talking about can be able to do it. Yes. All right, I want these turned in before you leave. So you have like 15 more minutes with this thing. If you want to study it, take pictures of it before you leave. That way you can study it tonight. You can watch the videos tonight. I'll make sure I post today's video so you can see exactly how to do this one again. It'll be something the long division will work out nice and pretty. I guarantee it. And you can either do it by synthetic or long. I probably recommend long because that's the one we've worked on in class. If you want to see synthetic, I'll make up a synthetic here in a minute. If you want one.
Can I go to the bathroom?
Yes.
We don't have to do synthetic though, do we?
No, you can use long.
We have to turn these in today.
Yes. So you want to take photos. They're due today. Now, once those two get back, there's something we're going to have to talk about.
Good, bad, ugly?
Now it's good. Possibly good, I don't know.